Hi everyone, Paul here from Skyland. As you know, we hold a Digitech Leaders series where we get an opportunity to shine a light on some really successful leaders. Super happy to have Simon Kazir from Radar Healthcare. How are you doing today, Simon?
I'm very well, Paul. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Good stuff. So Simon, let's get stuck straight in. So I've got a number of questions I want to go through with you. And the first one has to be, you're the Chief Revenue Officer at Radar Healthcare, okay? What actually attracted you to go and join Radar Healthcare? Because I know you would have had a lots of different options. What was it that kind of made it the right fit for you?
Yeah, so it's a question that I'm often asked, and I think as a sales leader, when you're evaluating different companies and what potentially your skill sets and your experience and your background could benefit that organization, and then what is it within that environment that you're looking for, and how best does that fit and map across. I think that's something that over the years I've got to understand that I have a set of skills which lend itself to perhaps an opportunity where I can envisage significant growth potential.
Right.
And that growth potential could be in the form of scaling up a sales team, for example, or it might be refining business processes or sales processes within that company that are going to create maximum efficiency, which ultimately result in greater revenue growth. If I can spot that and feel that within an environment, then you almost have that unicorn type of effect where you know that you could go in and make a real big difference, and this could become something very big very quickly. Those are the opportunities that really lend themselves to pique my interest. So when I came across Radar, which was a company that I already had a familiarity with, I knew that the technology that they had was exemplary, but it was really about understanding the culture within that organization, and does that fit within my own set of values?
Yeah.
And do I bring something to the party which is going to help them grow and nurture their existing teams into becoming something that perhaps they didn't envisage that they could become? Then that would become something from my interest level, something very exciting. So that's what I found at Radar. It was what I thought it would be, which was a bit of a diamond that polished up well. This could be a real shining light, and that's what I'm hoping that I've added some value towards, and hopefully we're stepping into that direction now.
Talk us through then. So for the viewers' benefit, so what year did you join Radar?
I joined in July 21.
And what was the business in terms of size or location? What did it look like when you joined? And then the question I want to follow up is, what was your objective?
So the company size at the time, we had 40 members of staff, or just under, at Radar in mid-July 21. And having spoken with the directors and the founders, actually, Paul Johnson and Lee Williams, it was very clear and apparent that they had a very clear, defined set of goals that they wanted to achieve. And that for me is a very, very good telltale sign when somebody's got a very clear line of sight. They might not exactly know how they're going to get there, but they knew what they wanted to become. And that's very attractive. So putting that into the context of what my role was, it was to scale up the sales team.
Yeah.
Look at what Radar did well from a sales standpoint, look at what Radar could do better, and perhaps even recognize what Radar is great at, and then really focus on that area. So for me, the first few months were really about discovering that, and thereafter putting a plan into place that could harness what was really great and really good at Radar already, and then scale that up, not only in terms of the number of headcount, but also some of the processes that were being followed. Were they prohibitive to growth? And if so, what could we provide that would be better? So I set about looking at it, the scale up in sort of three main categories. Number one, it was about staff themselves.
Yeah.
I inherited a team of 5 business development managers and grew that. That was the first objective. The second was around the business processes that were in place. Were there systems that could be adopted that would help us grow faster? And so I quickly found that some of the outreach that was being done could be greatly enhanced and increased if we were to bring in a different set of tools. So we changed the sales stack of what Radar had and enhanced it. So we brought in a couple of bits of software that really made a difference on the outreach and had a tremendous impact on our ability to generate quotations and proposals and contracts. And actually, a really interesting stat around that is how we reduced the amount of time to close or to reduce the deal cycle essentially by around about 16 days, which doesn't sound like an awful lot, but when you're scaling, it becomes significant. So that they were just some of the things, and then we decided to the focus was definitely on getting more elite sales professionals in through the door. That's not to say or to downgrade any of our existing staff members. It was about what could that talent pool look like, where we would recruit from, that we could get maximum bang for our buck. And that's what we then did. We went out looking and actually targeted and headhunted certain individuals that we felt would be tremendous in our team, in our mix of team. So that's what we did. And what that resulted in 1 year was a triple-digit growth year.
Perfect. And then also there's been things in the business that have been transformed. So as the business is growing, I know from talking to the founders, there's that real sense of pride when it comes to like the culture. And then you've got, how do you grow a business fast but keep that sense of culture? And I think the founders appointed a director or a head of culture and people, right? So to help
that's correct,
that process.
It's super important. You're right. And Paul and Lee had built up such a great quality culture within the organization, where people feel valued, people feel that there's that there's an overarching sense of loyalty towards the overarching goal. Is something that it's not easy to instill in an organization, particularly when you're growing at pace. So when, for example, 50% of our workforce at Radar is less than 1 year old. So that gives you a sense of scale and how quickly we've grown. So 40 went to 80 in under a year. And so maintaining the really good quality culture and the principles and the values of the business is really key. And the simple answer to that is, how do you do that? Was your question. Really strong leadership. So by having really strong leaders in the senior management team really helps. The fact that we are guided by one set of values and aims and goals and mission, it means that we absolutely are a customer-centric organization that puts its people first. But how does that manifest in day-to-day activity? That's quite unquantifiable at times. So it's the challenge for our business is to maintain that. And yes, part of that answer lay in with the head of people and culture. When Hannah came in, I think it made a dynamic difference to our ability to formalize many of the good things that we were doing and create more of them.
Scale it.
We consistently scaling it. We consistently survey our teams, and the overarching feeling is always around that everyone's really happy working at Radar, would recommend other members of their family or friends.
Hi, Simon. I don't know if you can hear me, but can you hear me okay? Hello?
Yeah, I tell you what, just give me 1 second. Just pause it a second.
So one of the things that I found that has been really crucial for candidates when they're in a search or considering looking for opportunity is, how well companies look at onboarding. And I know you guys take that really. I know you're even involved with the onboarding process and the design. To talk me through, if you can, Simon, talk me through that, and how, and why that's important for you.
Well, I think regardless of the role, every single potentially new employee, it's a two-way thing, right?
Yeah.
Is it the right opportunity for them, and have we found the right candidate in this person to fulfill a really good job? So that has to be right. And once you've made that decision, on both sides, because one party is offered, the other is accepted, it's really important to onboard that individual in the most seamless way possible, right? To get them up to speed so that they can start attaining whatever it is that we've set out as their objective. And that's a two-way street. So quite often with our process of onboarding, there's some of the mundane, I call it mundane, but some of the compliance items that need to happen have to happen. So how we design an induction for a new individual is very much dependent upon two aspects. Number one, it's around making sure that we're ticking the right boxes on the things that we have to impart as information and get things straightened out, from a documentational standpoint. But the second is really always tailored around somebody's individual training goals and needs, right? Because that can vary. Somebody could come in and be super experienced in a particular area. You don't want to necessarily teach someone how to suck eggs because they know that. That's why you've hired them in the first place. So to go over ground which, was one of the reasons that they were attractive to you, to me seems pointless. What we should be doing is saying, right, there's an ability from the employer side to actually learn from that individual as well, because they're bringing a set of skills and experiences to the table, which we don't necessarily have or don't highlight well enough. And that's one of the reasons why we've hired that candidate, right? So that induction becomes a two-way opportunity for not only that individual to learn about Radar's, processes and the way that we sell within Radar, but equally it becomes an opportunity for Radar to extrapolate what that person's experience level is and share that amongst the wider team. So that becomes a very much a tailored approach. So we always try and tailor the inducting of an individual and their training plan as much as possible, because not one size will fit all.
Yeah, which is really important. What are you most excited about when it comes to Radar in the future?
It's a really good question. I think there's several things that excite me on a personal level and then on a business goal level as well. So number one, I think that because Radar is a product, it is applicable into so many different markets that becomes a it sometimes it's great strength, but it can also be a weakness too, because we do apply to so many. So you've got to get super focused about the verticals that you want to sell into and the markets that you want to sell into. So from our perspective right now, the international expansion about moving Radar across into the United States, for example, is such an interesting proposition in a long while ago, but in a previous life. We handled that successfully, so it's quite nice to be part of that journey now with Radar as well, to use some of that previous experience now in this new environment. Is super exciting, really rewarding. It feels as though we're embarking upon something really important as a business. And then I guess from a personal perspective, one of the exciting things that happened at the end of last year was being I moved when I joined Radar. I joined as head of sales, and I moved across to become chief revenue officer. So that from a personal standpoint, there's lots of things around revenue generation and revenue operations, about creating greater efficiencies, passing that efficiency back to the customer, looking at our existing client base, seeing where the opportunities are there, not only commercially but also from a standpoint of greater commercial appeal, that we could attract such great logo brands like we have done in the last 12 to 24 months. And how do we leverage those relationships through partnerships, through account management processes that are going to make us even more appealing to the next big logo brand? That, from a personal level, it's an exciting place to be.
100%. What about in terms of thinking about people and profiles? not necessarily just in sales, but just, I suppose, any function that is in, I suppose, in that revenue generating function. What kind of people do you believe will flourish at Radar?
Generally speaking, I think people that have the same shared values as our business tend to flourish at Radar. So if for example you're coming into an environment which you understand and value the principle of fostering really great quality relationships, so you're able to work within a team environment that feels and gets behind a common goal. Yeah. And I know that's, you know, a cliche and lots of people will say that, but at Radar, we really do feel that joining up together, we're stronger together. And therefore, if we can push together in a common direction, we gather velocity a lot faster. So we're finding that by attracting the kind of people that have almost this ethos built in them, they tend to be people that come in and hit the ground running far more than perhaps a individual contributor that likes working as a lone wolf. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. And I've been that kind of person myself in the past, so I understand the value of that too. But I think from where we are as a business, this absolutely lends itself to working collectively, collaboratively as a team, not only internally, but actually externally. We've got some great partnerships with some other organizations which help us gain further traction, especially in the sales arena, really quickly. So I think that by work, if you have that as an inherent quality about working together to get somewhere faster and sharing within a common goal, you would fit really well within Radar.
Good news. And what's the best? This is a good question. What's the best bit about your job then, Simon? You've gone from head of sales to chief rev, but overall, what is the best bit about your job?
I think there's lots of great aspects to what we do. You know, the fact that we sell a product that really does transform, you know, working environments that ultimately look after people, and therefore patient safety and reducing the amount of risk that's inherent in healthcare and social care businesses up and down the country is unbelievably rewarding to work with a piece of software that can carry so much impact. But from a role standpoint, from my role standpoint, I guess seeing people overachieve from what their expectation was when they came in, or over a set period of time, and seeing them exceed that expectation and go beyond that, so that becomes then their normal. That's always it always has been for me the aim and art, and it is both. It's a science and an art. To combine those two elements and make somebody believe that they are, you know, they're capable of exceeding what their own expectation was is possibly for me the most rewarding thing that happens in a sales environment.
It's getting, when you can visualize and see somebody becoming the best version of themselves, even you know, smashing out their own expectations, it is a great feeling. Simon, thanks ever so much for coming on the show today. I'm going to obviously look forward to catching up with you in, let's say, in 12 months, 18 months time, see where the business is at. But from us to you, many thanks, and good luck in your journey.
Yeah, thank you so much, Paul. Really enjoyed it. Really appreciate the call. Thank you.
No problem.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.